Hello and welcome to the ADHD Entrepreneur. Thank you for joining me for this first episode of the podcast. If you've seen the trailer, then you'll know that I have set myself a 12-month challenge to make money online through some online projects, some side projects that I've been having in mind for a little while. I just recently quit my day job. And so this is the first week that I have been spending attempting to succeed at my challenge of trying to earn some money through passive income online. So in this first episode, I wanted to basically just give a bit of background as to how I got here and why I'm doing this. I want to stress that I'm not an expert in ADHD. I'm very recently diagnosed as having ADHD. So this is not coming from a point of view of, an expert's view. This is me challenging myself to become an entrepreneur, but also facing the challenges that someone with ADHD might run into when trying to achieve the same thing. Yeah, I want to just, as a big caveat, just say that anything that I say that I'm doing is not necessarily backed up by any ADHD science. It's just me trying to figure out how ADHD impacts the things that I want to do and the things that I'm going to try to do to work around those things. That's in a nutshell what this is. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background. So for the last 12 years, I have been a UX designer. So for anyone who's not familiar with UX, it's user experience. So that involves a lot of user research, but then also designing the structure of sort of digital journey. So whether that be a website or other digital platforms and how those things connect together to create a user journey. That's what I've been doing for the last 12 years. I've been working at a small agency. So I have a very good understanding of digital marketing strategy. I have a very good understanding of how to find out information about target audiences. So in theory, it should be quite easy for me to succeed at these online businesses. However, the one thing that has been stopping me from turning these side projects into something more successful in the past is, as I very recently discovered, is because there was something stopping me. I felt that it was procrastination that was stopping me from doing these things. And so about a year and a half ago, I went to see a therapist. It was BetterHelp. You may have heard of it. So that's an online therapy that you can do. And my main aim was to discover why I was procrastinating and why I couldn't do these things that I knew I was capable of doing, that I knew would have a positive impact on my life, because I wanted to do them. I felt that my life would be better if I was doing them. If I think anybody would agree that if the idea of earning passive income and freeing your time to do more of the things that you love, whether that's spend time with your children or pursuing hobbies or creative endeavors that make you feel happy, then that's amazing. And so I couldn't understand why I wasn't able to do these things. So, like I said, I went to seek help and chat through some of these reasons why I was procrastinating. And during those sessions, it was suggested that I might have ADHD. But at the time, like I say, this was about a year and a half ago, I'd heard of ADHD. I knew that a lot of people had it and it was being diagnosed more these days. But I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the symptoms were. I didn't know how it actually affected an individual. So when it was suggested, I poo-pooed it. I was like, I don't understand it. So I'll move on. And we talked about something else that sounded pretty relevant as well. So I just worked on that instead. But as the time rolled on, not a lot changed. I was still working in my day job, and I think it was becoming harder for me to do my day job because, so I'll explain a little bit about what feel that I'm good at and what I feel I'm bad at. And I can see things from a very sort of high level conceptual view. I like to see patterns in things. I like to see a path through things. So how can we get from the start or the start of a project to the end of a project? What does that path look like? How can we make sense of any mess? And I get very excited when we can see a continuous path through something. And I get excited when I can work with other people, when we're working with clients on projects and getting them to see that it's possible to get from A to B to C and to complete a project. However, in my role at the agency, because we were quite small, it means you have to wear many hats quite often. You have to do many different roles. And because I liked to look at problems from a high level and try and figure them out from a high level, looking at, if you know anything about UX designers, you know that they love post-it notes, writing things down and being very theoretical, practical, but theoretical. But once I had mapped out a strategy, was quite often then asked we don't have anybody else in here that can do those things that you suggested that we do. So can you help us implement them? And that would be where I would start hitting the wall. I get very focused when I start drilling down into the finer details of a particular step in a journey. I can research and I can find out lots of different things and get quite focused and a long way down them. But at some point, there will be a point where I don't know the answer or I don't necessarily have the skill set to figure it out, whether that be crunching numbers or writing content. I can quite easily get to a certain point and then not be able to finish it off, and which makes it difficult then to then pass that on to somebody else who hasn't done as much research about it that I have done, and then expect them to do it. So what I'm trying to say is that in my job, I was creating work for myself that I didn't necessarily want to do or was very good at doing. I identified work that needed to be done, but then I was almost making it my responsibility to do those things. And the more and more times that this happened, the less I was able to do maybe the things that I really enjoyed doing. So I was enjoying my job less and less, feeling that I got more and more responsibility. And this was having an impact on my daily life as well, because maybe projects were weighing on your shoulders for longer than they should do. You're thinking about them when you're at home with your kids or your partner. And it was just taking up far too much of my life. And I wasn't doing any of the things outside of work that I really enjoyed. I didn't have the focus to do them. And the impact on my life were getting bigger and bigger. So I decided that, and I had been thinking for a long time, that it was time to maybe try and attempt to pay more attention and focus on some of these side projects that I'd felt that would make me happy. I have a really broad spectrum of things that I like to do. Maybe I think that's a trait of people with ADHD, is to pick things up, get some level of competency, and then decide that this is something that needs to be part of my life. And I'll feel unfulfilled if I can't include that as part of my life. Why can't I do that? Why aren't I doing that? So this is probably the same old story for a lot of people with ADHD. So I felt that to make myself happy, I had to find a way of creating the time and space to be able to pursue some of those things. Maybe it's just ticking them off a list. It's pursuing them to realize that, you know what, I don't actually really like doing that as much as I thought I would. But knowing that is probably going to be a lot more helpful than it being on this sort of imagined list in the back of my mind of things that I'm not doing. The things that I'm not doing weigh really heavily on me. So this 12-month challenge that I've set myself is an attempt to try all these side projects that I've had in my mind to some point of completion, to see what works, to see what I like doing. And then hopefully, if I can earn enough income from that, I'll have the freedom to pursue other things, some more of my creative hobbies without the pressure of turning those into a job necessarily. And also, I've mentioned the passive income thing quite a lot of times. That is going to be the bedrock of what I do. If I can nail that, should give me the freedom or the security to pursue some activities, some freelance opportunities and some coaching opportunities that I would like to do. But I'd like to be in the position where I can spend a bit more time creating assets for that, and the freedom to pick and choose who I work with or when I exchange my time for money, let's say. So those were a lot of the professional motivations for doing this challenge. But I think, as I was saying, in my personal life, I wasn't doing any of the things I wanted to do. My kids are a big part of the reason why I wanted to really try and make this passive income thing work, because my kids are homeschooled. Their mum does the homeschooling. We are not together. We co-parent. So I really felt that I was missing out on this opportunity to contribute to the homeschooling as well, because I just wasn't available to. I was working 9 to 5. And yeah, the allure of passive income, creating a business as opposed to a job for myself, really was attractive to me, because hopefully that will allow me to really spend some quality time with my kids that I won't get this opportunity again. There are some really big goals or reasons for me doing this challenge. What else? Also, yeah, during lockdown, we're coming to the end of 2023 now, whenever lockdown was, when it was 2020, I had a really good time. I wasn't bored. I was, for the first time in a long time, I was given the opportunity to pursue a lot of my different hobbies. I say hobbies, but these are these sort of entrepreneurial projects, side projects, really. And this is probably where a lot of these ideas really took hold. And that time for me was quite free. And I felt really good in that time. And I was really positive about some of the changes that I could make at the agency that I was working at. But there's only so many of those sort of elements of side projects that you can bring in, because they don't necessarily benefit. The agency wasn't there to work for me. I was there to work for the agency. And so there's only so many things that I could shoehorn into my job that I felt that I would enjoy. So really the only other option was to either do them as side projects or to leave and follow those 100%. Yeah, in that time, this is what the point I was trying to make, is that in that time I had already started converting a transit van into a camper van. So I really this idea of being able to work from anywhere, like being a digital nomad. And working in the digital space, there's really no reason why I couldn't pursue that, And so I had a whole list of reasons why working for myself, creating some businesses that had some passive income, exploring the country, being able to take my kids to interesting educational places to see the countryside as well. It's all very appealing, but I just, for some reason, wasn't doing it. So yeah, the chance to get out in my camper van and explore country, maybe even Europe as well, is really exciting and something that I suppose is on a bucket list that I want to achieve this year as well. So just to wrap up or this second section, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I want to try and achieve during this 12-month challenge. So I've talked about passive income element, and I've also mentioned that I would like to still be able to work with people and exchange my time for money. But I'd like to be a bit more selective about that. So there will be some freelancing and some coaching things that I would like to do. But I feel that comes second. If I can nail the passive income first, that will give me first of all, the security to pay my bills and the freedom to choose which projects I take on. So in the passive income side of things, there are some side projects that I have already started, and I've got to a certain point with them that I now need to get over the line and start selling some things. So I'll explain what those are. So there's print on demand. So if you don't know what print on demand is, it's where you get a print on demand supplier that have products that you can print stuff on, and they only get made when somebody purchases them. So you don't have any overheads of stock. You know, they have a run of things made, and then you've got the liabilities for that if you don't sell them. This is just printed on demand. And so for me, because I have a design background, I've done graphic design in the past, so I do enjoy creating artwork, illustrations, and things like that. And I do creating things that look aesthetically pleasing. So for me, this has probably been one of the oldest side projects that I've had, that I've carried around with me. And I've attempted it in small ways before, but I think now that I've found a way to make that more sustainable and successful. So that's printing on things like t-shirts, trainers, bags, mugs. I will do an episode on the print on demand project in more detail. I'm just highlighting it now. The second side project is fairly similar in concept, I suppose. It again is a print on demand thing, but it's through Amazon. It's KDP. So that's Kindle Direct Publishing. So that is the publishing of what's called low content books. So if you think about a low content book, it might be a journal. It's just got lines in it. So that's low content. A high content book is something that somebody has written and it's got completely unique content on every page. Low content books, it could be children's coloring books, a diary, a log book, so things like that. So the idea then is to, create some interiors for the book and then a cover, and then submit that to Amazon, and then Amazon will print that again on demand, so that you're not holding a lot of stock. I have already printed off I've created 4 books already, but these are purely, for the time being, log books, like journals or planners that I think I will find useful for myself. Commercially, they probably won't do so well just yet, but when I go, I'll do an episode on Amazon KDP as well, and I'll look at the process for being a bit more commercial minded, being a bit more competitor research and some keyword research and things like that. Now going on to some more side projects that I haven't started yet, but I aim to start maybe a quarter of the way through or a third of the way through this year. Again, this kind of sits in the middle. This is effectively should be passive income. It's about creating assets that can effectively bring revenue in. But again, it's a digital asset that can be sold many times, and then it still isn't an exchange, a direct exchange for my time for money, like the freelance services will. However, these digital assets that I want to create will be leading up to providing those freelance services. Effectively, they will be working as lead magnets for the freelancing that I want to do. So affiliate marketing is where you basically do marketing on behalf of another company. In my case, as I said before, I tend to research a lot of tools and strategies for, all this work that I've been doing with the agency in the past and all these sort of ideas and business models. I really do have a broad experience of using a lot of tools. And so affiliate marketing makes sense for me. I can create blog posts, video posts about how to use certain tools and how to get the best things out of them. And then obviously you then can share an affiliate link with somebody. And if they sign up, you get a commission for that. So that can be an effective way of creating some passive income, as well as showing what your expertise are if you have something else to sell. The next one will be then looking at some online courses. I'd love to create some online courses about some specific topics that I have learned how to do in my 12 years experience as a UX designer and digital marketing strategist. And then potentially as well, I would like to, this is the third one, I would also like to create a sort of a how-to book or a process book that explains how to do some of the freelance services that I will be offering. So that really is essentially the lead magnet that will lead into acquiring customers for my freelance services. It should act as a way of educating the potential client as to what the process is that I'll use, give them an understanding of how it works and why it should work. It's essentially warming them up to be a client of mine. And then it gives you an opportunity to invite them to then get in touch if they are unable to implement a lot of those things themselves. That can work very well with the online course as well. Those two things can be sold in unison or together as an order bump. So if you are familiar with some of these things, then you might be familiar with the concept of funnels. And yeah, I will be building a lot of funnels for these projects as well. So yeah, these are all the things that essentially will be the main focus of this 12-month challenge. But also as well, the fact that I'm talking to you, whether you're watching this or listening to this podcast, that in itself is a project that a side project that I've wanted to do for a long time. I've thought of many different podcast topics to do, but never gone ahead and done it. I maybe recorded 1 or 2 episodes, but left them where they were. But yeah, so I will be diving into the process of how I put this together and looking at the journey of whether it is successful or not, and trying to unpick the difficult things about putting a podcast out when you have ADHD. What are the challenges? For all of these things, I'm going to be talking about how to do them, but then also I'm going to be talking about how challenging I have personally found them and whether or not I feel like I have found a workable solution or workaround in order to still keep moving forward. And a large part of the purpose of doing the podcast is accountability for me. If I was doing this in a vacuum, then as soon as I hit a wall, I would probably stop. But by putting this podcast out there, I am forcing myself to essentially potentially fail in public, but not have that become an issue, because for every time you fail, I think you have a learning opportunity. So I'm keen to find out what those learning opportunities are. I'm keen to share those with you, but also I really want to have an opportunity to also learn from you as well. So if you are yourself an entrepreneur with ADHD and you're further down the journey of setting up a business or multiple businesses, I don't know, what have you done that has enabled you to be successful? And I'd really like an opportunity. I'd like the idea of being able to interview people as well. Get in touch if you know, want to talk to me essentially and want to be on the podcast. The final thing as well is, again, that I will be talking about in terms of how well I have been able to achieve my goals with it, will be social media. I've only ever really used social media in the past for keeping in touch with friends. I've never personally used it for any of my side projects or for business myself. From a strategical point of view, I have included it a lot. I understand the social media strategy, and I know how it should work. But the point is, if as an entrepreneur, you're doing it on your own as a solo entrepreneur, is one thing understanding theoretically how something should work. But if you can't find the time to do it effectively yourself, or it's taking up too much of your time, then that's the point when you need to identify that your time needs to be better spent elsewhere. Again, that will be something that we'll look at in a later episode about what I'm doing to move forward with that. Is there anything else that I can think of that I wanted to say in this first episode? I don't think there is. I'm just going to take a quick. It's about social media. What was it? So I suppose apart from all of those things that I've mentioned, I will be regularly talking about what everybody's talking about these days is how can AI be used effectively to help people with ADHD, but in general, how can it be used to help entrepreneurs? I'll be looking at outsourcing essentially as well, when and where to do that and how to do that effectively, and all the sort of tools that may be useful. Yeah. So I feel like I've explained enough for this episode. So if you are interested in following me on this challenge, then do tune into the next episode. The next episode, I'm going to talk about my first week the first week of my challenge. And you might think that it will be about some of the print on demand or the KDP stuff. It won't be. The first week I am essentially going to try and sit down and address how I'm going to organize my week to make my week more effective. Try and basically declutter my house, declutter my computers, my digital nightmare space, so that I can start this 12-month challenge with a clean slate. So yeah, so next week episode will be looking about how I have got on with trying to get organized. Okay. So thanks for listening or watching. And please, if you want to hear the next episode, please subscribe. That'd be really helpful. And yeah, I will see you next time. Cheers. Bye.